Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Conversations with Coach. I am so happy that you all are joining me tonight, and I have another special guest. Tonight, the conversation of topic is going to be the auto industry post pandemic. And I have a very special guest that is going to be joining me. He knows everything there is to know about automobiles. So, if you are in the market to purchase a new or used vehicle and it's the end of the year and you're thinking about what type of deals you can take advantage of, this is the episode to tune into. Or if you know of someone who might be in the market, this is the episode that you want them to tune into. So go ahead and click the share button. I'm getting ready to bring him up now and do his introduction. Hello, Mr. Daryl Killian.
Hey, Christina.
How are you?
I'm doing good. You got me up on media late at night. Do dark.
I actually got you up on a video. So I consider myself real fortunate. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, that's what you call it. Okay, we'll go with
Yeah.
that.
Yes, let me introduce you to everyone. This is the AutoNsider. If you are in and around the Atlanta area, you probably already know him or know the voice. He is WAOK's. He has a show on WAOK on Saturday mornings from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. He is a homegrown Morehouse man whose automotive career spans 20 years, including sales, service, and management right in the Atlanta area. And with his weekly call-in show, he offers tips for buying, selling, maintaining, and just simply enjoying automobiles. So as I mentioned to you, in today's episode, we're going to get into some of that knowledge of his. So again, I would like for you to click share and help spread this knowledge. So Daryl, we're going to get started with this conversation on the auto industry post-pandemic. But before we do, how about if you share with the audience, how did you get into liking the cars just so much?
Well, I got into liking cars because of my dad and my uncles. My dad was a car enthusiast. He bought a new car probably every 2 years. That was his vice, was new cars, and he'd always buy them and give them to my mom. That was like his reason. So he'd buy the car, give it to her. She'd drive through the week, and then he'd drive on the weekends. And then, uncles all had fast cars or cool cars. They had the Buicks and the Cutlasses and all the cars that I was fascinated by. And when I got in high school and had done okay in high school to have most of my credits out of the way, my senior year, there was an opportunity for me to take a business class, and it allowed us as seniors to have jobs at car dealerships or with jobs anywhere in the business world, and you got out of school early. So when they told me it was an opportunity for me to get out of school early, of course I jumped on that, and I knew a young lady that I guess I was sweet on back in high school, and her dad owned a car dealership. I told him about the program. It was an office. It's called vocational office training is what it was. And he gave me a job at his car dealership. And I was bitten by the auto bug, I guess in 1987, and I never looked back.
Well, there you go. It always has to be that benefit, and that's always going to be good. So we are going to take advantage of your knowledge and your love for automobiles. The first thing, the pandemic has definitely changed life as we all were accustomed to it. And that might not be a bad thing. Sometimes having things shake up and turn us away from what we are so accustomed to doing, it's not always bad. And with that being said, as it relates to the auto industry, talk to us about the new normal.
Well, the auto industry, if you keep up with it at all, if you keep up with the news, the auto industry is it influences everything. Kind of like the whole new nomenclature in Atlanta is Atlanta influences everything, and we take it as a joke and it's funny. And the culture around here really does transcend all lines. But the automotive industry, if you ever look into it, you look back to the I guess during the Gulf War, you think about oil, things in the auto industry. You think about to I guess back in 2007 when the housing crisis came along. The auto industry was affected. When you think about the cash for clunkers, when Obama got in office, everything. His administration sought to save the auto industry because the whole thing was if we don't save the auto industry, everything else is going to collapse, and that's true. Now what we're seeing is, for I guess 50 years, the car industry pretty much was the same. You buy cars, end of the year is the best time to buy a car. First part of the year, you don't really buy. You got tax seasons, a great time to buy cash cars and cheap cars. And so for years, we had gone on this whole, we were on cruise control and we knew what to expect. We knew how to negotiate with dealers. We knew there were certain cars, certain time of the year that we could get discounts on. And we got accustomed to it. I was talking to a dealer just about 2 weeks ago because someone called me looking for a half-ton truck because end of the year, a lot of car businesses buy vehicles that qualify for tax credits, and this is the time they buy them. They buy them in fourth quarter every year. They buy full-size trucks, full-size SUVs, and they write them off on their taxes. So it's a huge advantage for them. Nobody can find those vehicles. You can't do that anymore. The tax credit is there. There are no new cars available. So the auto industry has changed in every way possible when it comes to service, getting parts for your cars, insuring your cars, keeping them safe, and not having them stolen. Used car prices are higher than new car prices. So everything anybody ever thought they knew about the auto industry, including me, throw it out the window because it's changing every day. And if you're just like stocks, if you're not watching it every single day, you'll miss something. And if you're looking to buy a car, you'll miss opportunities.
Wow, that is very interesting. I know with me, a few months back, probably during the summertime, I ran into an issue with my vehicle, which is not old. It's just now five. I've had it for 5 years, and I ran into an issue where it was. I got some information from Volvo that there was an oil consumption issue with it, and I was like, "Oil consumption? What in the world?" And you and I actually had a conversation about it. And so I was faced with, do I spend this money to repair it, or do I just go ahead and get me another vehicle because I don't want to start having issues? Long story short, I did entertain the thought of going to purchase a new vehicle. And when I got out there, just as you said, there was nothing out there in terms of inventory. And I was like, this is crazy. And so I ultimately ended up going and having the vehicle repaired. But to your point, the inventory out there is still lacking. And we are at the end of the year. And like I said, that was back during the summer. So it definitely has not improved. So you did mention in terms of the tax credits that most people tend to try to take advantage of at the end of the year. Because of the inventory being low, so if somebody is wanting to do that, what would be a recommendation that you would have for them?
So right now, like the guy who called me, he owned a business. He wanted a full-size truck. I think the vehicles have to be over 7,000 pounds. Don't quote me, but you can look it up or ask your tax advisors. But it's a 7,000-pound vehicle. When you buy those vehicles, they qualify for a tax credit for business owners. So many businesses who are in the, whose industry calls for full-size trucks, they would typically, because they put a lot of miles on them, end of the year, buy them so they could get these huge tax credits for the company. Well, the way the tax code is written, the vehicles have to be brand new. So you can't buy pre-owned vehicles. So they have to take delivery of them before December 31st. So when the auto dealers can't get this new inventory in, they can't sell them to them. We got businesses now who are trying to buy VIN numbers so they can use the VIN number and get the tax credit. But the tax credit don't work the way they have to take delivery of the vehicle. So right now you just can't. It's one of those times there's no real way around this, which is why I say no matter what you think you know about the auto industry, you have to rethink it. The internet is your friend right now when you're looking into the car, into the car industry at all. You better be good at uncovering and finding information online, because in everything you thought you knew, it's over. It's out the door for now. In another year or two, it may be back, but for now, it's out the door.
That was going to be my next question. Is there any idea on when it might improve in terms of inventory?
So all the analysts from like Detroit Daily News and a lot of these publications, Automotive News, Bloomberg, the they're looking at the end of 2023, but with this new COVID variant, Omicron, whatever it's called, a lot of the analysts are saying that, depending on what happens there, it could potentially slow up supply chains in some of the other countries like China. If people aren't vaccinated, if they don't have everything they need, it could potentially slow up these chips again, and then we'll be back at where we were. If that doesn't happen, then we're looking at probably about late third, maybe fourth quarter of 2022, moving into 2023, we'll see things get back to normal. But I'll caution people, don't expect car dealers to change the way they're doing business. A couple of things have worked well. I was looking at a valuation of car dealers. Car dealer valuations have gone up 30%, meaning a car dealer's their lot, their building, their inventory is worth 30% more than it was in 2020. So they have found a way to thrive in this business. And some of them are starting to get the hang of having less inventory, because what that means for a dealer is supply and demand. If I have fewer cars, I can charge you more for the cars that I have. The days of them stocking 500 cars in their lot may be over, because when they do, they're forced to then negotiate with the consumer. So I think what we're going to see is a lot of these dealers are going to try to hold back the inventory as much as they can. I think the manufacturers are going to try to force cars on them, because they do. But I see business being very different moving forward. The internet is going to be a big part of that too, because you can shop online and you can buy cars from all over the country from one spot. So I think the internet is going to be the great equalizer, I think.
Wow. So with all this new coming out, I know my mom owns a newer type of vehicle, in terms of our next topic, and what they call the AFV type vehicles. And I'm not really sold on them yet. So can you talk with me about that?
Yeah, so alternative fuel vehicles, especially what we're finding is, I was just at a meeting in California out in San Diego a couple weeks ago with Toyota. And the one thing I asked the engineers, the PR personnel, everybody in charge at the end of the meeting, what's the one thing that you want me to take back to my audience? Or it was probably a room of 30 journalists. And my thing was, if you could send us back to our audience with one thing, what would it be? And for the African-American community in particular, they wanted us to let them know what alternative fuel vehicles are, what hybrid vehicles are, the difference between hybrids, between battery electrics, between plug-in hybrids. And so one of the things that we are seeing is people's fear of this new thing, like I don't know if you call it fear, but I call it fear of alternative fuel vehicles. But automakers are doubling down on particularly electric vehicles, and plug-in hybrids, cars that use electricity just like your home. So what you have is battery electric vehicles. You'll see them advertised. It'll say BEV, or be referred to as BEVs. Those are cars that only have lithium ion or some type of a battery pack. They only have electric motors that run the vehicles, and there's no ICE, internal combustion engine. So those are gone. No more gas, no more oil, no more oil changes. So that's a battery electric vehicle. Those are vehicles like Tesla is probably the most popular vehicle in that lineup. Lucid is a new company that's just out. Motor Trend's car of the year is the new Lucid. That car starts between $75,000 up to $100,000. That's another battery electric vehicle where they have to be plugged in and charged in order to drive. Then you have plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. They'll be referred to as PHEVs. What that is, it's a vehicle that has an internal combustion engine, also referred to a lot as ICE, the ICE. But they also have electric motors that have these battery packs that power the electric motors. And what you can do with those vehicles is you can plug them up and charge them. They'll give you anywhere from 30 to 50 miles of range that you can drive those vehicles without burning any gas, without the internal combustion engine running at all. That's probably going to be the next hot thing. But when the electric motor runs out of juice, when the batteries are depleted and need to be recharged, the internal combustion engine starts up automatically. Driver has to do nothing. You continue your trip. You don't have to deal with things like range anxiety, which is one of the things that is familiar with battery electric vehicles. And then you have what we see so many of now is hybrid vehicles, which means they can't be plugged in, but they do have electric motors. They do have batteries that do hold a charge and hold energy for the cars. But for the most part, they run off of their combustion engine. You'll see the engine stop when they come to a stop, or in really slow, like congested, like rush hour traffic, you'll use your battery and motors, but not so much your engine. Those are the cars we see the most of now. Prius would probably be one that most people would know. The Toyota Prius, probably the most popular hybrid vehicle on the road. But the other manufacturers like Hyundai, Kia, Ford, everybody has hybrid vehicles now to go in that range. So, and then Toyota has one that's on the West Coast. It's called the Mirai, which I'm a big fan of. It runs on basically water. It's a hydrogen-powered vehicle. And there are hydrogen fuel stations in California. It's only available right now on the West Coast in this country. They haven't come as far east, but that Toyota Mirai does really well. It doesn't provide any dangers to our environment. They don't no really pollutants from the vehicle itself. I don't see it ever being a big player in the auto market, but it does really well on the West Coast.
So out of all those plethora of AFV vehicles that you talked about when you were at that particular conference, which one or ones do you think that is going to be the most popular in terms of them coming, and when do you think?
Well, I mean, you can never count out the big three. You know, Ford, Chrysler, GM, and Chrysler now is owned by a company called Stellantis. It's not even an American company anymore. They're probably the only ones who said we're not going all in on this electric vehicle game. But Ford, Chevy got a lot of money. So the new Ford Mach-E, Mustang Mach-E is an electric vehicle, have getting great reviews. But at this time, Tesla is still probably the king of the hill when it comes to EVs. Their new company, Lucid, though, they got something to say about, like Dre said, you know, the South got something to say. Lucid said, we got something to say. And Motor Trend votes in the car of the year. It's a really nice vehicle. So for my money right now, I'd probably be leaning more toward the Lucid just because it's new. And, you know, it's new to the market. But I will say one of the things that I found in my research and talking to people, looking at this new bill that the Biden administration passed, electric vehicles aren't really as beneficial to working class people. This is something that's going to be more beneficial to upper middle class and wealthy people because of the price of admission. You know, it's hard to get an electric vehicle these days for under $40,000 or $50,000, which puts that car in a whole other class. So when we look at working class people, we're looking at minorities, inner city. EVs are going to have a way to go to appeal to the masses, and we're going to have to make the playing field level for everybody. And right now, it's not. A lot of money being spent on research and development, billions of dollars every year being spent trying to get this whole EV infrastructure up and going. But if it were me, I'm looking at the Lucid as my favorite right now.
So in terms of leveling the playing field or making a vehicle, an EV vehicle that's affordable to those groups that you mentioned, Toyota usually comes out, or are they looking at trying to be that?
So yeah, they have a new car they introduced called the BZ4X. It's their new all electric. It's an SUV. BZ is going to be the line for it, and 4X is the model. The BZ4X is going to be a 2023 model, but it'll come out mid 2022. It'll start in the high 30s and go up to the 50s. So they're looking to get in there. Right now, they have the Toyota RAV4 Prime, but not everybody. It's a highly sought after vehicle. Really hard to get. Toyota can't build them fast enough. Everyone they have a VIN number for that's scheduled to be built is already sold. There's a plug-in hybrid. It's gonna level out a little bit. It's still close to $40,000. Hyundai has a. I just drove not Hyundai, Kia, nice vehicle I just tested last week. I'll be doing a review in a couple of weeks. It's called the Kona EV. Small all electric vehicles, a crossover. It's in the low 30s. So Hyundai, Kia, Toyota, they're all coming with stuff that's gonna potentially make them more affordable. Not to mention the federal government has in this new $1 trillion build back America bill that just got introduced, got passed.
Mhm.
You have this $7,500 federal tax credit for buying an EV vehicle. It's still there. They've also proposed an additional $4,000 or $5,000 credit for vehicles that are built by union workers.
Mhm.
That ostracizes companies like Tesla and Rivian and Lucid because their employees aren't a part of the union. But it
Mhm.
helps companies like Ford, GM, and Stellantis because their people are part of the union. So the plan is to incentivize the American car makers to build more electric vehicles and then to pass on the tax credits and savings to the consumer if they buy, electric vehicles built in the United States. So that's a bit of an advantage. And just a note, though, for anybody looking at buying an electric vehicle, these tax credits don't mean you get back $7,500 or $12,000. It means your taxable income is reduced by that amount of money. So if you make $100,000, you take the 12,000 off, you pay taxes on the balance. So that's why I say all these laws and new regulations are more beneficial to the wealthy and upper middle class because the average working class person, day to day, paycheck to paycheck, usually don't do those types of deductions. So they're not really going to benefit as much right off the bat as the middle class and the wealthy. So got a lot of work to be done, but I think it's coming and we don't have much of a choice.
This is great information. So the buyer understands the new normal. They understand the difference between all of their choices as it relates to the AFV vehicles, and they're ready to buy. Now what?
Pack your patience. Now, what I would tell anybody to do if you don't want to pay a huge markup, because I have seen, when you go to buy a car, they write out a buyer's order. So they put down what the retail price of the car is, taxes, any trade-in that you have, any accessories. So they line item, everything is there. There's a new line item on a lot of these buyer's orders that say market adjustment. And I've seen cars, not even exotic cars, just regular everyday run-of-the-mill cars, being marked up anywhere from $2,000 to $20,000 over the MSRP, which is the manufacturer's suggested retail price. They're being marked up to $20,000 over their price because people are willing to pay it. The only way I've seen people are not paying those huge markups is if you order a vehicle. So if you're looking to buy a Chevy or something of that nature, you go to the dealership, you want to buy whatever it is, they don't have it on the lot, you just put down a deposit, $100, $500, order the vehicle you want, wait 90 to 120 days for it to come in. You're still going to pay sticker for it, but you're not going to pay above sticker. Other thing I would say to people to do right now is to look at sedans and coupes. So many of us buy SUVs like you, I don't know whoever rides with you, but you got an SUV. And, a lot of people just think SUVs are just for people with children and big families. But now everybody that's the most popular vehicle out of SUVs and crossovers. So I'd say if you have to have a car now, you're not super picky, this might be a good time for you because there are some incentives still left on sedans and two doors. So I would say lean that way and go to less popular models. Also, I've been seeing commercials. I think Honda and a couple other people have 0 or 0%, 0.9% financing. What you're going to look at doing is improving your credit so that you can qualify for lower interest rates. So people who haven't in the past focused on credit, which I've always talked about for the last 8 years I've been on the radio, is number one thing you do is focus on your credit and your credit worthiness. Paying people on time, getting off erroneous false information off your credit bureau, um, joining sites like Credit Karma and places like that just to keep up with your credit and make sure nothing's on there that shouldn't be there. And then paying people on time. The better your credit score, the higher your credit score, the lower your interest rates. And a lot of people don't understand credit scores. 680 and above, 680 to 700 is good. When you go 700 to probably 730, 740, a little bit better. 760, 780 to 800, you're excellent. But anybody at 700 and above can typically qualify for the good rates that are out there. So my thing is focus on getting your credit score up to 700. If you're going to buy a car, shop rates with your banks, your credit unions, and with auto manufacturers. Look at some companies who are offering better interest rates and go look at their cars. So good credit, low rates, sedans are probably going to be your best bet to getting any kind of a discount on the car for the next 16 to 18 months.
This has been some really good advice. As we begin to wrap it up, and I always ask any of my guests to come in just because it's always about the mindset for me. And what would be the one habit that you would want to leave with the listeners when it comes to the auto industry that you want them to consider making as it relates to a mindset shift?
My thing now would be to not be emotional. Think about buying a car, like investing in stocks, like looking for a job. Figure out what's going to be best for you long term, and focus more on maintaining your vehicle. A lot of people feel like I can just get an oil change, maybe I'll get it, this done, maybe I won't. But what you have to do is maintain your vehicle. Because if you take care of it, it'll take care of you. I've said on my show many times, I'm hard pressed to identify a vehicle that I call a bad vehicle, especially a new vehicle. Most of these cars are built well, manufacturers share technology. So these cars are built to last a little bit longer. Maintenance is a lot less expensive than it used to be, because you don't have to do major things like spark plugs and timing belts and those kind of things anymore. So I would say focus on maintaining your vehicle, treating it well, and not abusing it. If you do those things, you can hold on to your car a little bit longer. A lot of us, a car is your second biggest purchase for the average person. And I think now we should pay attention to taking better care of those vehicles. And I see, I hate to jump in and try to run your show, but I see a question somebody asked.
I was going to tell you about it.
Oh, about the pros and cons of purchasing a pickup at this time. Say right now is a terrible time to be buying a pickup unless you're going to make money off of the pickup. If you don't have an industry that you can generate revenue from the vehicle, this is not a good time to get it. And unless you're a farmer and you need it and you got to have it, you're going to overpay. And a pre-owned truck these days are as expensive as a new truck. So it's not even really a good option to go for a pre-owned truck. So my thing is, if you don't have to have a truck at this time, don't buy one. You have to wait. Now, on the flip side, if you have a truck that's 2 or 3 years old and you don't need it anymore, you will never make more money off of that truck than you will right now. So this is a great time to sell a car. If you're trading a car in, it's a great time to trade it in, to get the most value out of that vehicle right now. But I tell people, the dealers hate to hear me say it, but I say hold tight unless you have to buy a car.
That's some really good advice. How can they, I know that the viewers can follow you. If you want to follow Daryl on Instagram, his handle is at @auto_N_cider. So that's it. He's the AutoNsider, but it's spelled differently. If you want to follow him on, y'all better follow him. Don't play. Follow him on Facebook at AutoNsider. That's where you're going to be able to follow him. And definitely call in to his show this Saturday. His phone better be ringing off the hook from 10 to 12 Follow him on calling him at 1380 WAOK. He comes on at 10 a.m. to 12 noon. What you gonna be talking about this Saturday?
Well, this Saturday is going to be great because I'm going to have an attorney on. Her name is Jay Lane. She has a personal injury law firm here in Atlanta and an office in Albany. It's and she's going to be answering questions about personal injury, your rights, what to do, how to handle yourself. She's taking everybody's questions about anything related to personal injury, especially as it relates to the automotive industry. And I'm excited about it because it's a lady who was a single mother. She put herself through law school right here in Atlanta, opened up her own practice in Albany, came back, opened a practice in Atlanta, and she's doing really well for herself. And we're really excited to have her on the show this week and teaching us. So we're going to learn a lot from her this Saturday.
Okay, y'all. So again, 1380 a.m. WAOK, you all definitely, someone just put it in the chat. Simone, she is tearing it up in the comments there. She put the link where you can learn more about Daryl. And Simone, go ahead and just drop the link so that they'll know where to call, where to follow the show, so that he can y'all can interact with his guests on Saturday. Thank you all so much for tuning in this evening. You all know where you can find me on Instagram. Obviously, you know where to find me on Facebook because you're here tonight. And also, if you want to schedule a session with me about the mindset, we've got the new year coming in, but there's no sense to wait until January. You might as well already set up what your goals are going to be and go ahead and book that complimentary call with me. And I appreciate you all so much. There it is right there. Thank you, Simone. She went on ahead and listened on demand. We all have our smartphones with us. There is no excuse for you all not to be tuning in on Saturday. So you can't say, well, I'm not at home, but you got your cell phone with you. So if you're out running errands on Saturday at 10 o'clock, go ahead and on demand on SoundCloud.
They can download our app. It's called Audacy, AUDACY. If you download the Audacy app to your smartphone, then you can find 1380 on there, and they can find it. Thank you, Simone. That's my producer for my show on here, making sure you got all the information. So, hey, great to have a good team behind you.
It is. There you go. So download the app, and thank you all so much for tuning in. Daryl, thank you again for being my guest tonight.
All right, well, now you can say, you're welcome, cuz.
Good night, y'all.